Hey guys, Patrick here with the Digital Arts Experience. Today I'm going to be doing a bit of animation for you guys with these Create and Hang. So as you can see, I already did a little bit of work on this before starting. And let me also turn on some music just to make it a little more relaxing. Um, as you can see, I already started a little bit of it. This is a character that I've animated before, or I've drawn a lot. She's a character I really like. Um, and I just generally enjoy characters like this. But I'm doing a basic run cycle because it'd be a little bit easier, and it's gonna be kind of a fun little thing to do and talk with you guys with. I've already worked on this a little bit, and so you see that I've done the basic outlines for the run, and then I'm going to actually go full in and make the actual character around it. But I've done the basic work for it just mainly because I wanted to get that a little bit out of the way. It's not as fun to do all of these, and sometimes it's more fun to just go in and get the details done. But yeah, this program that I'm using is Open Toonz. It's an open source software that I found a couple weeks back. That I found out also that if I read it correctly, Studio Ghibli actually uses it to make some of their films nowadays. It's based on their original Toonz software that they use. So cool, fun jazz like that. It's free, open online. It's a little bit weird, though, to use, I've found. One thing that I've found out is that the basic default setup is that instead of the frames going left to right, they go up and down for some reason over here. I find that really interesting, especially since I'm just so used to layers going up and down and frames going left to right from other programs that I use. Anyway, but yeah, no, just fun little things. It's a little bit more of a complicated program, and so I decided to start off with a run cycle just to get my feet wet in it a little bit more. But yeah, let's get going on this. So yeah, this is a character that I've played for 3-4 years. It's a D&D character I have, where she has been a paladin, and now she's stuck in the future, like Samurai Jack. Always fun. Let's lock this layer first so I don't accidentally draw on it. I'm gonna lock this layer. So this is the character. This is the final design of the character. She has blonde hair. She always has a perpetual smile on her face. I know I made this one look very serious looking, but I'll probably give her a big wide smile just because I think it's more fun. I mean, I think that's just kind of her personality in per se. She also has this cool little weapon that I think is pretty awesome, but I digress. Yeah, I've been playing this character for... Oh, and light up shoes. Oh! Ooh, okay, so I'm going to do something fun where whenever her foot hits the ground, it's going to light up because... well, let me first draw the character, but then I can do that fun little jazz later, but that'll be a fun way to give it a little bit more personality, too. So yeah, I've been playing this character for 3 years. I started her off in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, in a first edition Dungeons and Dragons campaign, where she was a paladin, and basically I just fell in love with the character. She's been such a fun character to play because it's always been like, I'm gonna do the right thing, and it's always nice to have like a old school kind of hero. Let's see if I can... Okay, so one thing I like about Open Toonz is that unlike some other programs where like you draw the character and then you have to figure out the coloring afterwards and like change the color by hand, you can actually go in. So they have this thing called a palette, which is down here, and so if I go into this palette, I can actually just change all of the ones that have that color that's in this particular panel. It doesn't work for every panel. Actually, let me see if I can do that. Let's see what I can do. Let's see what happens if I bring it up. No, it does not work. But it's cool that I can just go in and change the colors as needed. It adds a weird dynamic to the actual drawing aspects of this. I'm still not entirely used to it, but it'll be nice to be able to play around with and see what I can manage. The other thing that's different about it is that instead of moving frames over to give more space, I can actually just add more to the frame in, and it'll automatically push things down. So if I do this, at least it should work. Let's see. If I do this, oh, my printer is doing things. I don't know why. Right, I locked the frame. So if I didn't lock the frame and then did that, that would work. I wonder if that's why it didn't change all the color. No, I don't think so. This is relaxing music station. I'll probably use this more often. Oh, it did work. Wait, it worked. Ooh, we have weird success here somehow. Maybe it didn't work. I don't know why it worked for some but not all, but hey, it seems to work for these guys. Cool. Other thing to note is the onion skinning here. Something I find interesting about that is that instead of onion skinning just like seeing all of them, you can actually choose which frame you want to see opposed to all the other ones, and unless you click it, it doesn't show you those frames. I know that seems like, okay, what's so weird, and I'm just like, it's something that I haven't seen other programs do, or at least I haven't played around enough to see that, and so it's an interesting little extra tidbit. I believe if I click here, I don't know what that does, but we'll figure it out. Again, new program, kind of just getting my feet wet in it. Anyway, so we have this, and I want to make sure that these guys, I'm going to turn this off this way. So this one will prevent it from rendering. I believe that's how, if I remember correct, if I read up correctly, this one prevents the frame from rendering. This one prevents it from being seen on the viewport. So I'm unclicking this so that these guys don't render when I render it out. This guy I'm just gonna leave there for now. What if I could, oh, yes I can. So I can turn down the accuracy to help the whole, it's the back thing. Yeah, that looks a lot better. That's gonna be easier to draw on. As for this guy, I also don't want him being in it, but I don't want him to be here either. So I'm just gonna keep it over here. I don't know why I'm referring to the columns as him, but you know, whatever. Anyway, Aaron. So that's the character's name. Aaron is a paladin who, at the end of that campaign, dragon attacked, and it didn't go so well for anyone. So another friend of mine decided to continue the story in a future campaign where she got frozen in time for, I think it was 750 years. So, you know, eat your heart out, Captain America, who was only frozen for 60. And then she woke up in this kind of apocalyptic future. Siren. Kind of apocalyptic future. Not like super apocalypse, but like it's space and her entire world was destroyed. Yeah, not fun times. But, you know, now she's a different kind of class in this new game. And I just find her neat. I think she's a neat character. Gotta say, I do like how nice the drawing system here is. Okay, let me do the eye here. So. She has nice big blue eyes, which I'll get into a little bit later, but right now I'm just gonna do the outlines. See what I can do with that. Sometimes I like not doing outlines. I like doing just as like an outline free, but this program has really nice outlines, which I find annoying in some other programs. You know, like Adobe Animate has vector lines, but they always feel so stiff. Something about this program really makes the lines feel less stiff, and I don't know if it's just me being like, I'm gonna love on this new program because I just started it, or if it's just because it is actually pretty good. I might need to look up and see how other people feel about it. But whatever the case is, I do like how much I can get into this. I also like how much I can zoom in here. It's also something I really have been enjoying. Okay. So I don't want her to be frowny. I want her to have a nice big smile. So I'm just gonna give a cheek here. Ooh, I like that smile. Okay, cool. Big smile. It's kind of her thing. She smiles through a lot. I'm not sure if any of you watch My Hero Academia, but like she's kind of like All Might, smiling through the worst of times, even when it's really bad. Even when she finds out like everyone that she knows and loves is dead, she still manages to push through in a smile, which is again why I find her such an appealing character. She's just a ball of positive energy, which is something that I myself wish I could be sometimes. Just because sometimes you need it, especially in this kind of world. But I'm getting dark. Okay, so back to this. So in animation, I see a lot of people do different types of eyes, and I think I like the pupilless eyes myself. They seem kind of fun. She has them here, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to put them here, but I really like how this is coming out. Ooh, do not like that nostril, though. I mean, it's cool, but it's not her, per se. I really like how that looks. Okay, so, Open Toonz, right now, highly recommend. I'm getting really nice lines, which is really interesting for me, because a lot of times when I animate, one of my hardest things is my lines, and like, I have smooth abilities and things like that. Ooh, sound's getting loud. I wonder if it's getting loud on this end. I'm gonna just lower it just a little bit. There we go. Back to this. Okay. Oftentimes, one thing I find when I do these kind of, I'm gonna turn down my own volume. Again, let's see if that changed the OBS. No, okay, we're good. One thing I find when I do a lot of drawings, I don't like the line work. Either the smoothing feature is way too smooth, and that's just because I don't play around with it nearly enough, but I found that 15 smoothness gives me a nice line, smoothness. The other thing I find is that sometimes depending on the brush, it can be either too soft or too hard. So if it's too hard, it looks very pixely and not nice. But if it's too soft, it looks blurry. I really like how they've done the hardness of these lines. The other issue I find, and this is just in like Photoshop and things like that, is that when I don't do hard lines, the colors don't fully color in as well, and so it ends up being making my life a little bit difficult. So I tend to try to keep to hard lines, but I really like how these lines are coming out. Okay, so she has really big ears. This wasn't always a thing with her, but ever since I started drawing her more, I've progressively made her ears larger, and larger, and larger. And I gotta say, I just love the idea of this character with really big ears. I'd say kind of cuteness of the character. I know that isn't always what's important, but I like cartoon characters, and I like cute aspects to them in a lot of ways. It gives me joy to make characters cute. So I do that a lot. But, I love how that came out. Her face looks really good there. Like, even comparing to there, I like how that came out. Okay, so next up is her neck. So let's go down to the neck. Oh, I gotta say, this program is really nice to use. I'm enjoying it thoroughly. Wow, okay, that looks good. Okay, so her neck, she has some bandages around her neck. Early on in one of the other, in the D&D campaign, she almost got decapitated. Literally, the sword went through, and So part of something I've added to her recently to help tell that part of the story is neck scars. Or like I have her bandage up her neck. I like that as like an idea of something that she might be a little bit conscious about as a character. It's a time that she does not fondly remember because she almost died, and that probably is not fun. I would say I've never experienced almost death, but I did get into a really bad car accident once where I almost did not do so well there. So I do actually know the feeling. It's not a fun thing to think about. But happy notes though. Luckily this character isn't real, so I don't mind talking about this stuff as much with her. She should have the hair should be coming over here too. Oh wow, that looks so good. I know, I'm just being like, hey Pat, your drawing's so good. But no, it's refreshing to see a program that I feel like I actually am getting the feeling behind my line work actually comes through. Oftentimes I found that like my big issue is that a lot of times in my own artwork my lines don't really come through as much. When I draw on paper, it's a little bit easier for me. But when I draw in a program, I've mostly been doing digital art recently, but I've been getting frustrated, and I still am frustrated with just how much the lines always feel forced or weird looking. And it came down to a point where I've almost actually just completely gotten rid of lines. If you look at this picture and some other pictures I've done, I've gotten rid of lines entirely because it just doesn't feel nice. It feels fake looking. And so that gets very frustrating, especially when I really do like line work. Okay, so let's get this here. Now the issue is, will these lines translate well when I try to animate? So I'm getting a really good first picture, but will I be able to continue these lines and make them look consistent enough that it doesn't become a distraction? So we'll all find out together, as no one has ever said, but it's something I'm going to say right now. We'll all find out together. Okay, so she's here. So part of this look, and I actually, this look was something I only recently changed about her. She used to have a little bit more of a trench coat look, but I actually asked online, I kind of commissioned a piece of art for her, and it's not because I can't draw, but I just like other people drawing characters and seeing what different art they have. So I commissioned an artist. I put it on, there's this subreddit that does like character requests and stuff if you can't pay for a commission, and sometimes I just put the stuff up there to see if anyone wants to draw these characters. I go on there a bunch to, and I draw a bunch of characters from there too, just to practice my own stuff and get some fun stuff and, make someone happy. But an artist, so I can get their name. One second, I'll be right back. Reddit. Okay. Anyway, so the artist did the picture, and it was great. It looked amazing. I loved how it came out, and I loved how I especially loved what he designed with the vest here. He actually added the bandages in, and I don't know if he did that because because I did tell her story in the picture. I don't know if he did it because he read that scars, but I do really like that, and I really like the idea of incorporating that in. And I especially like the button-down shirt and the short sleeve button-down shirt and the vest. He obviously got inspiration from Han Solo, and You can ask pretty much anyone at the DAE, but I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. I love those movies, with the notable exception of the last one, but neither here nor there. Let's see. Oh, found the artist. Sorry, I just didn't want to not see if I can give credit to him. Oh, wait, that's a different artist. Let's see. Dragon. There it is. Okay, so this guy, the guy who made it is Sooth David. I'm not sure if he has a. Anyway, Sooth David was the name of the guy who did it, and it came out so good. I loved the look of it, and so that was really nice, and that's what gave her her current look, which is the vest and a short sleeve shirt, a short sleeve button down, which I also really like. So her other outfit, and this is something I just find hard to figure out in a lot of art, is that it felt very closed off. So it felt very much like everything was kind of meshing together in not a fun way either. It didn't look nice, and I just couldn't figure out why I didn't like the design. And when they did this outfit, I realized that it's just because it didn't really fit the character as much. It was a very closed off outfit, but this is a character that is very, very much a open book of a character. So she is loud, she is sometimes obnoxious. Charming is the word I usually use for her. She's a little weird, mainly because she is always trying to help people. So she's always very open and very friendly. And so the thing that I found that I didn't like about the old outfit is that it kind of closed her off a lot. It shoved a lot of her look inwards, and I didn't like that. I didn't know why. It seemed like a cool idea at the time when I first drew her like that, but it ended up not working out. And again, this is her future look. When she was in the past, she was also there was very open design. I made sure to keep her in this really shining white armor and make it all super cool looking, super paladin-y, just make her a fun looking character. I kind of laugh because as I've drawn Aaron, the longer I've drawn Aaron, the less I focused on the cool badass moments of her, and the more I focused on her being open and friendly, her being very nice, her being kind and kind of goofy. I just find that my interest in the character has gone from I think that she is this cool, awesome paladin to I think that the most D&D's weird because you think about it's a game you play with friends. You don't think about it in the sense of hey, these are characters that mean a lot to me, and maybe not even why those characters mean a lot to you, but it's something that I find both interesting and important, is that characters like Aaron are characters that I find almost inspirational, and I try to play them in a way that I continue that trend. Aaron's a character who, no matter what goes wrong, no matter what happens, she will always try to do the right thing. And I think that's just something that I myself want to be in this world. I want to be someone who always tries to do the right thing and help others. And as such, I made this character, I'm able to kind of show that aspect. Make that kind of character who is willing to go the extra mile to help people, who jumps head first to help someone who needs it. And again, that's why I think Aaron is very important to me as a character. She represents something that I want to be. She represents the things that I find important. Now, so yeah, that is the long reason why I also think that having her be in these very overflowing outfit was a mistake on my end, because it made her so much so much smaller in a sense. She was small, and she never felt like this larger than life hero. She always felt more like she was hiding, and I never understood why I did. Like, I mean, I understand why I did that. I was obsessed with trench coats at that moment in my life, and so I drew her in a trench coat. I thought that would be cool. Drop me back. But I think the other thing, though, that I wasn't considering is just, like, how does this character change? And so there's other aspects to this character that also I've also tried to bring into her design. Her hair color change is just fun, but I also associate her with the color purple a lot, and I think purple and yellow go well together as far as contrasts go, and so that's one thing. The other thing is that her light up shoes. I know that is such a weird thing that I find but it's one of my favorite aspects of her design, and that was something I just did on my own. Even when she wears like armor, because she also wears armor in the future because she fights bad guys. Even when she's wearing armor, though, I always have her have those light up shoes. And the reason why that is just, she's a very goofy character. She's a character that I find is all about being this kind of, there's an innocence to her, but there's also just like I'm going to do this because it's something that is right or fun, or that she finds interesting. And like, just, she's a nerd, so that's also why the light up shoes. I think that more people should wear light up shoes, just in general. Okay, so I am going to stick that down. Okay, cool. So now we're on the light up shoes. So let's, is this the inside or the outside? That's the outside, so this should be, there we go. There we go, that looks good. I actually like how that came. Oh, I'm surprised. She's very small looking. I might need to make her head a little bit smaller, or make her body a little bit bigger. Or just, one, probably just do that. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. But she kind of looks like a gnome now, like an old school D&D gnome, or halfling, is more people would probably think from D&D, from A Hobbit from Lord of the Rings. Very cartoony look. Do I like it? I'll figure it out. Probably just keep it like this. I like these proportions. They're cute and fun. And this is not a super serious thing. This is me just testing out order. I don't want to spend too long being like, well, what if I make this character super detailed looking, even though I don't really need to right now. Like, I don't want to not have those details, but it's just like, you have to choose your battles with yourself sometimes. And honestly, it's not a battle worth it, because it'll feel, and I feel like it's gonna feel like I'm spending too much time. Like, her shoe came out really good too. I really like how that came out. Okay, so now just this shoe and the hands, and we're done with image 1. Obviously, coloring is a whole different thing, but I think I'll I think I'll hold that off until the very end, since I'll also need to see what I can do with... Is that how many? Okay, so it's every one of the... It's all of her top hair. There we go. That looks pretty dope. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, cool. So now let's do... Does she have a belt? I never know whether she has a belt there or not. I feel like she should, but also, like, if I add the belt, it looks... Does it look good? It looks weird. It looks low. Let's see what I can do. Let's see if I can fix the belt issue. There we go. Let's end up there. Yeah, that looks... That looks nice. Right? No belt. We're gonna go beltless. It's more fun that way. Okay, no belt. Now let's get her other shoe. Now, as we did with the other leg, it's a little tighter around the ankle. So I've worked at Banana Republic, so I have to remember what kind of pant leg had that as a feature. There we go. Okay. So the interesting thing is, because this is the inside of the leg, so the outside of the foot has a rounder surface, the inside has a curve in. This is all stuff that we go over at classes at the DAE, things that just you don't think about if you're drawing a person. It's like, feet are probably one of the things that I know I myself struggle with. That's mainly because feet are just... They're tough. They're not fun. They're not as interesting as faces. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is that the most interesting part of the body is your face. In a sense, there's other parts that are interesting too, but it's just the face is probably the most fun to draw, is I think where I'm going with that, as it is super expressive. You can get so much out of it. Obviously, the thing that most people find the most difficult to draw is the hands, which I do find difficult to draw, but it's kind of weird because at this point, while I agree that hands are still very difficult to draw, I am kind of used to being so afraid of hands that I just like power through. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it. It's weird, so I was watching a video earlier this week where they were talking about, like, it's weird that hands are the hardest thing for people to draw, because you literally have the easiest access to them to look at while you're drawing. Like, you're literally drawing with your hands. You can just look at your hands and see, like, oh, that's how that shape works, which is what I try to do now. But I think the issue is that there's just so many parts to a hand. So, like, okay, so we have the hand part, we have the thumb part, and then you have the finger parts, and all of this stuff always feels very... Okay, I think I did this actually pretty okay for once. Okay. Well, maybe not. No, that came out pretty okay. There we go. And that actually came out pretty good. Oh, she also has her little wristlets. Again, I did the thing again. She has her little wristlets, which, not gonna lie, I actually don't know what they do. Theoretically, they do something. Maybe they tell time, or maybe they're communicators or something. I don't know. They're just fun things. They were in that one design I was telling you guys about with that made them, that was better. But also, not gonna lie, I've looked back and I've also just given her wrist things before. And I'm like, oh, huh, that's not just this person's design thing. That's something I've actually consistently done. And I wonder if he saw that, because I also posted pictures of her. I wonder if he saw that and was like, I say he, I think it was a he. Haven't actually. Let me check, actually. Oh. Yeah, Sooth David. I'm going to go with he. Let's see, commissioners loves the game. Bring out. I'm going to go with he. If I'm wrong, then I do apologize. They. They is probably the better way to go about that. But yeah, they added that in, and I just also really like it. It's just, they're fun things. Wristlets are always kind of fun to add to characters. There's little details that I can do with that. Making them a little bigger. It also helps because it separates. So, fun little factoid for animation nerds out there, and if you're watching this, you might be interested. So, one of the hardest bits to animate for pretty much any character is the connection points. Your shoulders, your neck, your wrists, your ankles, things like that. Those are hard to animate because they bend in weird ways, and sometimes it's hard to think about how those ways bend. And it's not like knees and elbows, which only bend one real way. Instead, they're just like confusing looking. They twist and they stretch and they do all sorts of things that we know logically they do, but we're also just like, but why do they do that sometimes? We're artists, we're not people who know things. But anyway, so I digress. So the reason I bring that up is because I think the most common part that people have issue with is the neck area. That's where you see, like, that's because people love animating faces, but the neck is really hard to animate at a lot of the time. So people try to find ways to not animate the neck as they can. Wow, I'm halfway through and I've only done one picture. Hopefully this will get you guys to appreciate how long it takes to animate, or just how slow I am, or just how much instead of doing this, I just talk. But it's create and hang, not create and watch Pat just sit in silence. I'm sure someone will enjoy that, maybe. No? Okay. Anyway, so back to the neck. So the neck is noticeably is really hard to animate, and a lot of the times the thing that people think about most when they're animating is like the face, because the face is the most expressive part of the body, obviously. Well, the hands are too, but that is its own issue, as people have found out. But so the reason why the character has the thing is, the neck is the hardest part. So when Hanna-Barbera, the Scooby-Doo guys who did things like Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, the Jetsons, when they came up, Flintstones, when they were trying to figure out, okay, we want to animate these characters, but we are doing this for television, and we want to do this on a weekly basis. So there's two issues there. One is that the characters can't be too complex, and two, they have to be able to animate them quickly so they can make a ton of episodes week to week. So they can make an episode week to week, and just get them out every week. So there's this. So here's the issue: how do you cut back on animation time? Well, one thing that, if you can make sure that there's a difficult part of the body to animate is no longer difficult to animate because you don't need to worry about it, that's one way. But the thing that they came up with, and I'm just gonna come over here and show you. So they have a character, and the primary thing that they want to be able to animate is the head, right? They want to be able to have the character laugh, cry, do whatever. Boop, 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 boop. Well, if they want to animate the head, if it's a regular character, they also have to animate the body to move around. But instead, what Hanna-Barbera did is they came up with a trick. They gave a bunch of their characters neckties, or scarves, or ascots, or colors in the case of Scooby-Doo. Like they gave all these characters, or yeah, colors in the case of Scooby-Doo. Like they gave a bunch of different things to cover the neck. And the reason why they did that is that they no longer needed to worry about animating the neck now, and they separated the head from the body, which meant that they could animate the body and head separately so that the characters move, so that they can focus mostly on so the body can remain stationary while the head is consistently emoting. And that saved them a bunch of time, but that's also why if you watch some of those cartoons now, if you ever go back and be like, okay, I want to watch a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, you'll notice that in a lot of the cases, a lot of the characters' heads, if you look closely, are very disconnected from the body, and you'll notice that that's why their heads kind of can do a full owl turn around, because they're just focusing on the head. They're not worried about the actual body. I think there's a couple times in the very famous run cycle that happens in Scooby-Doo, where all the characters are running and they all have this very in-character run where Shaggy's Daphne is very pristine. Daphne and Velma are very pristine kind of runs. They don't move that much. Fred has a very masculine kind of run, where he's just like striding ahead, and then you have Shaggy and Scooby with very goofy looking runs because they're the goofballs of the group. But I believe there's actually bits of time where you have the run, and then you have the characters' heads like constantly turning back and forth. I think there's a couple instances of that, and that's just because the bodies were animated separately, and they could just separate it like that because of the, as aforementioned, color and ascots and stuff. The only character who didn't have that was Shaggy, who didn't have any sort of thing covering his neck. That's why Velma wears a turtleneck, and Daphne has a scarf. Shaggy does not have anything covering his neck, but his shirt is so loose that they're able to just animate. Like they keep the neck as part of the animation, but that it's still able to be done separately from the actual body. Oh, cool. So we have the first. Let's see if I can delete this level. Do I want to do that? Let's just turn this down to 0. Okay, so we have the first frame kind of done. Let's fix up the last bits of this, and we'll move on to the next one. So that's why those ascots work, and that was the way for a while, until it became cheaper. It became cheaper to animate on television, or it just became more lucrative to animate on television. It doesn't necessarily need to be cheaper if you can afford more. But yeah, technology changed, and you're able to animate more on television, so that you don't need to do tricks like that. But they're still interesting to think about from day to day. Just something fun to play around with. I'm going to make that part of her shoulder a little bit shorter. Bam. And that way I can do here. Same thing happens with the wrists, by the way. Like how the wrists move and why they move. Like there'll be things on people's wrists too. That's actually the reason why the gloves exist on Mickey Mouse. And that's actually not the reason. I lie there. That's not the reason why gloves exist on Mickey Mouse. The reason why gloves exist on Mickey Mouse is to separate his hands from his body. So silent cartoons have a different issue. They don't need to worry about the head. They need to worry about the body because they need to be super expressive, right? If you're in a silent movie, you need to be very expressive. That's the case for pretty much everything about silent movies, even live action ones. Those characters are very expressive looking. Now, if it's a black and white silent cartoon, one of the things that you have is your hands, right? That's one of the more important bits. But if you have a black mouse character whose hands are black too, how do you make them look how do you show when the hands are in front of the body without having those hands be lost in the body? And the answer was give him white gloves. That makes sure that you can keep the hands and the body on different. That you can make the hands and the body stand out from each other, and also on his face and things like that. It gives those a hard outline, but again, without losing the simplicity. My music stopped. 1 second. Yes, I am continuing. Without losing the simplicity of the characters themselves. Again, fun little animation factoids that I find interesting. I'm not sure if you guys find interesting, but you know, now you know, and knowing's half the battle. The other half is violence. Lots and lots of violence. G.I. Joe, another animated show. Oh, actually, that's actually another interesting factoid. So, old school 80s cartoons, right? So you have all these cool 80s cartoons. This is in the height of the very capitalist-friendly 80s, right? So you have these characters. You have these shows that are pretty much entirely made to advertise toys to children. Now, there's shows like Transformers that try to keep the characters looking different enough because they transform into different vehicles, and so every one of the characters has to transform into a different vehicle so that you can sell more toys, right? But shows like He-Man and She-Ra, Princess of Power, which, huzzah, She-Ra is the new show of She-Ra is ending this tomorrow, and I'm very excited. Like the show very much. But so you have these characters who are built to sell toys. Now, you have a issue. You have all these characters. You want to make as many toys as possible, but you want to save as much money as possible. So how do you go about making as many different characters as possible while still saving and so you can print as many different toys as possible while still not spending that much money? And the answer became that a bunch of the characters in both He-Man and She-Ra have the same bodies. They have the same kind of molds. They're just different colors schemes with maybe some different accessories, right? So that way, they didn't need to spend more money on different molds for these characters. They could just use the same mold and just print them out. It's like how like old school Barbies would just be different outfits for her. They just had different outfits for the She-Ra characters or the He-Man characters so that they could sell as many of the toys as possible. And I think the same is with G.I. Joe, without needing to make completely new models for each one. That's why those characters are very similar looking to each other. That's why you can't really, like, if you decided to just, like, completely color them black, you couldn't tell the difference between any of them. And that's actually interesting because that's such a different philosophy from what you learn when you learn character design. Because one of the most important bits of character design is the silhouette of the characters. It's why Aaron, this character here, that's why I focus so much on her hair being this like poofing out short hair, is because that helps me identify her as a character. She has it makes her silhouette very unique. But in the case of the He-Man show, the original He-Man show, and the original shows like He-Man and She-Ra, that's why the characters, they do not follow that rule. They all look fairly similar, and that's again because of the said desire to make more money off of them, make new, different designs. Okay, so we finished the first one. That's done and done. It looks good. I like the design of it. Again, a little bit cartoony, but again, this is not the only time I'm going to be drawing her in any program, and this is also not going to be like a final animation because I do want to animate her a little bit more one day. But yeah, so this is the first frame. Hopefully the next frames won't take nearly as long. Who knows? We'll see what happens. It's a fun time. Probably not. I mean, first frame is usually the hardest because you don't know exactly what you're going to be doing. But let's see what happens. happens when I up the accuracy of this guy. Make sure that little bit is on. And we're gonna move it here. Okay, so that's something I like too. In a lot of other programs, if you're on the layer, it will show all the other layers too, as long as they're unique kind of looking. I like the fact that this will only go on the frame that you already have. Let's see if that, no, that does not, let's see if that changes if I move that there. Nope, does not change. So it's useful because it lets me be able to see the outline I'm working with, as well as know where the other bit of this character looks from. Now, one thing I didn't look at when I was making this, one, I didn't pay attention to the fact that they kind of look the same way. Their head doesn't turn as much as our head might turn. And now I don't want her head to turn too much. It's just going to be kind of a small back and forth, mainly because she's still looking forward. So I don't want her to be like whipping her hair back and forth. I want her to actually feel like she's moving in space like a normal human being. You know, like if I'm animating them as a character. So I just want to look at this. Okay, so that is coming up pretty good. Let's turn this off for a second so I can see. So yeah, that's how the run comes out. And just like an old school kind of run. Nothing too complicated, nothing too fancy. One thing that I kind of use as a guideline for this character is that she's supposed to kind of feel like a just average human being, to the point where she, like, the fact that she does amazing things like this seems odd just because she seems so normal and dorky. And so the fact that she's actually this really awesome warrior who can actually like save people, it makes it interesting. And I just like her design being a little bit more just average kind of looking. So she has average height, average weight, everything's like dead in the middle. She's completely average, except when she's fighting, and then she becomes this very, very powerful person. So, okay, I've noticed an issue here. Her hand here is bigger than her hand here, and that is no good. So I'm just gonna take this, take that up, and just make it a little bit bigger. Just a little bit. Boom. There we go. Now that might be a bit too big, so I'm just gonna boop and boop. Okay. Now I do need to fix that a little bit because it got a little blurry, but that should be not too hard to do, as I just need to. Now, originally she had gloves too. She had these kind of like cool fingerless gloves. Does she have them in this picture? She does not. Okay. I decided just to get rid of those, though. As cool as fingerless gloves are, objectively, they're super cool. At least I think so. But I'm a nerd, so who knows what I know about cool. As cool as they are, I decided to get rid of them because I just rather, again, see more. I don't like the idea of her covering up so much. Again, I like the fact that I got rid of the trench coat. The trench coat was nice for an idea of a silhouette, but it never really worked. It made it less fun to draw her. That's why I like when she's in armor. That's why I put her in a lot of armor. Even in her future look, I have her in a lot of armor. In fact, let me see if I can get a picture. We're running low on time at this point. Wow, I've done one frame and we have 5 minutes left before I should probably get going. So yeah, I'll probably work on this more on my own before next week, and then we'll continue on with this fun little run cycle, this D&D character run cycle. Oh, you know what? Also, she also has this little node thing that is actually her weapon. I'll probably work on that later. That'll be a different level. Let's new level. That's the wrong thing. Okay, cool. There we go. So, she goes down, so... face. Okay. Start with her nose. There we go. Okay, that actually didn't... That's not too bad, not gonna lie. Again, she has this really big cheek. She has freckles and a big cheek. Freckles were a new addition. Those were something I did myself. Don't know why, I just... Freckles are always kind of youthful to me, and so I always like the idea of... Again, this character's a very youthful character. She's young. She's, I believe, her age is 719 or 19 years old. She feels a lot older, especially now, just because she's done a lot. But, like, again, the idea, I mean, she was based off of Eowyn from Lord of the Rings. So, if that gives you any idea of, like, oh, okay, so she's supposed to be this very forward kind of character. That was the original idea. Oh, her ear. Her body is moving. Her ear should probably move too. There we go. That looks better. Okay, so let's just see how that... Oh yeah, that looks good. That looks like her head is turning. Good, good. Yes. Turn that head. Okay. So we're gonna move her down here because that's where the next bit is. And she is landing her foot now. Okay, actually, you know what? I'm gonna use this to my advantage and still use the outlines here because you know what? Why not? Animators make the life so difficult sometimes, and so sometimes it's important that you don't forget that you can cheat. Not too much. You can't cheat all the time, especially not on tests. Do not cheat on tests, kids. But it's important to know that, like, not everything is you have to do over again, and oftentimes it's almost irresponsible to do it all over again. You've done things. Okay, so her hair's also gonna flop up a little bit because she's moving fast. And so I want her to feel like she's bouncing a little bit. No, that's a little bit too much of a bounce. There we go. There we go. That's a bit better of a bounce. There we go. Okay. Again, I want her to feel, again, very fun, high energy kind of fun stuff. I always like high energy stuff. That's why I really like Aladdin. The animation there is very goofy and fun. Makes me happy. I like goofy stuff. I secretly am just a 7-year-old child who has tricked everyone into thinking that he is an adult and can do things. I'm actually just, mentally still 7. I fooled you all. But yeah, no, it's fun to draw. It's fun to make these things. Not gonna lie, it's one of my favorite things in the world is to animate. Boop, there we go. That looks good. Yeah, that's right. Okay, good. Boo. Good, good, good. Okay, cool. So, let's... There we go. feels right. That feels really good. Yeah, feels right. Oh, that's my alarm. Stop. Okay, so this has been fun. I'm glad to hang out with you guys. We should do this again next week. Yeah, this is Open Toonz. Not sure if we're going to be offering a class on this, but I hope we do because I kind of want to teach it now. But yeah, no, this is this has been Create and Hang with Pat, sponsored by the Digital Arts Experience, and I will talk to you guys again. Let me save all. Yep. And I will talk to you guys again next week. I hope you had a fun time, and remember, stay healthy, stay safe, stay inside when you can, and I hope you have a good rest of your week and a happy weekend.